The German Chancellor has told the BBC that Russia is a threat to Europe that extends far beyond Ukraine. Friedrich Merz warned that peace, freedom and the political order of Europe could all be affected by Moscow. Chancellor Merz and the UK Prime Minister yesterday signed a treaty which they called historic and the first of its kind. He sat down with my colleague Nick Robinson from BBC Radio 4's Today programme to talk through what motivated Germany to sign this deal.
Your Defence Minister, Boris Pistorius, said to his own people, we must be ready for war by 2029. Be clear about that if you could. Does he mean that Germany, that Europe, needs to be ready for a wider war beyond Ukraine?
Well, we have to be able to defend ourselves, which is actually not the case. We are not strong enough. Our army is not strong enough. So that's the reason why we are spending a lot of money, more than ever before, after the Cold World War, so that we are spending a lot of money which we have to borrow. We changed our constitution, and we are seeing a big threat, and the threat is Russia. And this threat is not only on Ukraine, it's on our peace, on our freedom, on the political order of Europe. And that's the reason why we are doing that.
To be clear, you think there's a wider and a longer term threat?
It's a wider and a longer term, far beyond Ukraine, yes.
You said this US administration is largely indifferent to the fate of Europe. Is Donald Trump indifferent to the fate of Europe?
Well, at least he is not as clear and as committed as former US presidents were, former US administrations were. And that's the reason why we are all looking for more independency from American defense. We know that we have to do more on our own, and we had been free riders in the past, and the Americans guaranteed our freedom and our security, and they are not willing, understandably, they are not willing to do that any longer, and they are asking us to do more, and we are doing more now.
So in a sense, he was right when he and his vice president, J.D. Vance, and the defense secretary were pretty rude, let's be honest, about Germany and Britain and others. They were right. They pushed you into a different position.
They pushed us, and when we had our general elections, this was a week after the Munich Security Conference, when we saw J.D. Vance speaking to us in a very open manner, so to say, and we have to draw our consequences out of that, and we are doing that.
But were you right too? Is he basically, in his core, Donald Trump, indifferent to the fate of Europe? Or as you've got to know him, have you changed your mind?
No, I have not changed my mind. I'm observing that the Americans, for years now, moving away from Europe and turning to Asia. This, so to say, how is it said, pivot to Asia, is happening. And there are other places in the world the Americans are interested in, and they are seeing themselves in a very hard competition with China. And that's the reason why they are telling us, take care for your own, and we are doing it.
Now, Keir Starmer says he wants your help now, and in the treaty that you're signing, there is some commitment to help, because pretty much every boat and every engine that is used to transport migrants across the Channel from France to the UK travels through or is held for some time in your country, in Germany. But under the law, people smugglers cannot be prosecuted. How quickly will you change that law?
Well, this is part of our treaty, and we are decided on both sides of the Channel to change that as soon as possible. And that's the reason why we are now laying that down in our agreement today. And we will do our homework immediately after, and then we will criminalize all these guys who are trying to bring refugees illegally to our countries.
Changing law takes time. Are we talking years?
Well, we will not need that much time. When we come back to Parliament in September, October, we will be willing to change that, and the treaty is the legal basis for that.
German Chancellor speaking to my colleague Nick Robinson. Well, we are waiting to hear the Chancellor of Germany speak at a press conference that has been called, and this is the members of the media gathering there to hold that news conference in London in about 15 minutes' time. And we'll, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's Berlin. Let me get my cities right. Let's speak to our Berlin correspondent, Damien McGuinness. Geography kind of matters in these things, Damien, doesn't it? Tell us a little bit more about this sit-down interview then that we were just hearing a little bit of, because it's very clear that the Chancellor understands the American position more clearly than ever.
That's right, yes. Now, what we saw was when he went to Washington, which I think we've heard in parts of this interview as well, there was a lot of nervousness here in Germany watching how he would fare with Donald Trump, whether he would have a rocky start and be insulted, as we've seen in the past with the meeting with President Zelensky. And so there was a lot of worry here about where the relationship would go, particularly because Germany's in a tricky position with the potential heavy tariffs that Donald Trump has threatened. In actual fact, Mr. Merz appeared to establish a very good relationship. He's already communicated a lot with Donald Trump on the phone, done a lot of preparation, that was clear. And he managed to strike a balance between being relatively firm and very friendly. And I think that's partly because of the sort of personality he is, in terms of, being very happy, having these blokey chats with people. He's also a golf player and, quite a tough businessman as well. So I think there's a certain bit of mutual respect. But yes, he's very clear about the situation in Washington. And he's been quite forthright, really, saying that actually you can't rely fully on the US anymore. And what we're seeing right now is he's backing that up with actions, namely money. Massive spending on defence by using government debt, by changing the law in order to take on huge amounts of debts in order to fund this defence spending. Quite controversial here, but he's pushing it through. So I think we are seeing a change, not only in rhetoric, but also in the real concrete situation when it comes to defence here in Germany.
Damien, thank you very much. Damien McGuinness in Berlin.